Greetings and welcome back to yet another daily run. Today we're playing as Kayn. And Kayn is one of my most favorite characters to play, and not only because he has like that high starting damage which kinda helps you in some rooms, but I really like him in dailies because it means that in general runs are not as reliant on RNG. Like with someone as Isaac or The Lost maybe. Runs do end up, I think, exemplifying just how well your decision makings are in the end, and that's what kind of influences the run the most. And not like just some lucky rerolls that you might have gotten because, you know, you don't like a certain item and you decide to reroll it and maybe get a shovel, which then in turn gives you like a million amounts of points. I think just because of that, Kayn is one of those characters that I really like seeing in a daily, because I know that everybody playing it will have the same advantage to it, and in the long run, you know, when you play a bit more dailies, I think it really shows that Isaac knowledge come to put to the test. It's also very fun because he's very bare bones, like he doesn't have any special abilities and he doesn't have any spacebar items, which means that any spacebar item you take is kind of a new experience, because so often you see an item and you don't pick it up because it's bad. But in this situation, you know, when you're Kayn and you see a bad spacebar item and you pick it up, you might learn something new to kind of use it. Maybe you give you a new appreciation for something that you thought was useless. And that's just, you know, why I think that Kayn is a fun character in a way. The previous room had a tinted rock and I didn't use my bomb to actually blow it up. And the reason for that is, not because I missed it when I was playing, but I had a bomb and I didn't want to use it until I actually visited every room in the floor. Just because, you know, when you're on a daily, especially that only goes to mom, you really like need to min-max your consumables in a way that kind of gives you the most chance to find a way to get either more consumables or a way to go further than mom. And maybe in that room we would have gotten a tinted rock, and that's all well and good. But maybe, you know, this room could have contained a tinted rock and a chest, and that would be just a better bang for our buck. We would get, you know, more points, you know, maybe more bombs, which would allow us to get the secret rooms on the later floors, and that would of course allow you maybe to get some rooms. It doesn't, like, that's a very niche case scenario, it doesn't happen super often, but you know, sometimes it might happen, and just having that discipline, I guess, to wait a bit is a real way to kind of start shining and doing better on daily runs. I think just those little micro decisions can end up mattering a lot, and it's not something a lot of people kind of think about, you know, where to place the bomb. Do I wait a bit, or maybe I don't, or whatever. We do manage to get the mask here, which has a chance to kind of block our shots and not take damage, which is an okay item. It's not that useful if you only go to mom. I really like it against Hush because, you know, he has a lot of shots that the mask can block. And he just overall has a lot of shots, so it's very likely he'll get hit. And, you know, having that extra defense against him is just a great help. But sadly, this run doesn't have Hush, so it's okay, and, you know, can save us sometimes. But overall, I wouldn't say it's too useful of an item. What we managed to get in our item is Toxic Shock, and Toxic Shock is a very good item. It allows us, whenever we enter a room, it just kind of shrouds a poison cloud over everything and deals damage to every single enemy in the room. And that's great for clearing out rooms, but at the same time the item is not maybe that fun, because, you know, you don't have to dodge any enemies, you don't have to shoot them. Most often they just end up dying, or maybe, you know, they survive with only one hit remaining. And it makes the run kind of samey in a way. But, you know, the great thing about Isaac is that you don't get these super strong items often. So, like, maybe if you had Toxic Shock every round, you know, then it would be maybe boring. But just because, you know, you get Toxic Shock like maybe once every 20 runs or something, when it happens, it's kind of a special occasion. And you kind of take advantage of it, especially in a daily run when you kind of try to maximize your score. It's a good get to have, even maybe if it doesn't make for an entertaining video, just because, you know, enemies die immediately. We got kind of unlucky here for getting Krampus in our first Devil Deal. That's not something you generally want to see. It's not too terrible here because, you know, we are Kayn, we don't have a spacebar item. So if you do get Krampus's head, it's not that big of a deal. And if you do get Lump of Coal, it's also great because that's a good item. And we do manage to get Krampus's head, which of course helps us to kill bosses a bit faster, and that's, I think, the main use for it is just to kind of use it for bosses, or maybe large rooms which are annoying and you kind of don't want to deal with them, especially if there are some battery charges laying around. But in this case, I just use it on the boss a few times, well, the few next bosses, and they just end up dying super fast. And I think that's one of those uses for Krampus's head that maybe doesn't see as much play, especially since the patch, because it can have that rotating brimstone, which is not as useful for aiming, but at the same time, you know, if it does land just right, you can actually clear rooms very fast with him. This Devil Deal actually ended up containing Judas's Shadow and Dark Bomb, and I ended up deciding to take both, and then I actually killed myself. If you don't know, taking damage on these Sacrifice Room spikes, I guess not Sacrifice Room, like Curse Room spikes, is not that big of a deal because it doesn't deal any point damage. So like it doesn't deduct your points for taking damage here, but of course if an enemy or a boss hits you, your points do get deducted a bit. And the only thing that costs you is health. But we want to die because we want to come back as Dark Judas. And my reasoning for that is, first of all, we have a way of regenerating cards with Dark Bomb, because he takes red hearts and gives you blue or black hearts. And it also increases our damage. And our damage, of course, helps us just because we have more damage. But what it does is also increases damage of Toxic Shock. And having higher Toxic Shock damage means that we're able to clear those rooms when you enter them so much more efficiently. Because, you know, previously maybe, you know, some enemies died and some enemies didn't. But now with our damage increase, it's just so much more likely for these enemies to just drop dead as soon as they enter the room. So that was kind of two of my reasonings why I decided to take that combination. Here we play the Beggar and we get the slot machine, and I play it, and a black fly spawns, and we got Poison Touch. And if you don't know, Poison Touch makes enemies poisoned when you touch them, like the name, you know, insinuates. But what it also does is when you poison them, and if they die by poison, you actually get I don't know how big the percentage is, but it's quite likely for you to get a black heart out of it. So that means, you know, if you wanted, maybe you could have go to the arcade and just play that slot machine a few times, kill black flies with your poison, because, you know, they don't deal contact damage to you, and get a lot of black cards, and then, you know, get a lot of coins. We're kind of, well, not really short on time, but I really didn't want to bother doing it for like a few coins. I don't think we've gotten a super great benefit out of it. But of course, you know, if you do that on this daily, I think you'll be able to get a few more points than I did, if of course you play equally or better than me. So it's just kind of a nifty trick, I guess, that you kind of have to learn, or you can learn when you... of course, if this was like just a regular run, if you had infinite time, we could be able to do so much more. But because this is kind of a slow combo, I decided not to do it, because, you know, first is like kind of entertainment value, but at the same time, the second is not, it's not that powerful and doesn't like produce great results. We would just have like 30 more cents after 5 minutes, and I you know, it's okay, it's definitely worth it, like from a point perspective, but at the same time, you know, finishing early means that you have more points, because the more time you take is also more points. And I finished this run incredibly slow just because I did take my time, and I didn't want to take a lot of damage, because, you know, I tend to play really fast and then take a lot of damage, but this run I just kind of took it slow. One thing I want to mention as well, our previous room had Golden Teleporter, and that's a teleport item that actually teleports you to rooms that you haven't been to. So like if you visited all the floor, then it teleports you like to the shop and then the treasure room. And if you visit every single room, even the Devil Deal, it actually has a chance to teleport you to the error room. And error room always contains a crawl space, not a crawl space, but a path to the next floor. And you might be thinking, well, that's a great thing, because you can use it to get to the floor next to Mom. But what actually happens is, in daily runs, you can't get to error rooms. So, you know, maybe some people took it because they thought they can get further than Mom with that item, but it's actually impossible. And I just decided to stick with Krampus's head, because, you know, it deals more damage and it helps me kill boss rush just a bit faster. Because it does regenerate its charges every third wave. So yeah, that's kind of the reasoning, and I wanted to point it out, you know, if someone thought why I didn't take it and use that free ability to kind of go further than Mom, you know, that's the reason. It's actually impossible, at least with that item. And that actually concludes it now for today. We didn't find any ways to go forward. But thankfully, because I did take a bit more time than usual, I didn't get hit as much. And just overall, you know, I think this was a very good daily performance by us. Like always, you know, we can expect to fall because I played this rather early. And of course, if you want to see more, guys, stay tuned and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.